Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. In 1975, when I was Draupadi's age and Dristadyumna's age, I had the great good fortune of being in Mayapur when Srila Prabhupada had just published the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so for class each morning, he would read one verse from the Adi Leela. And the first 16 verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita kind of form the basis for the rest of the text. So these are very important verses. So for our reading today, I thought we'd just read these 16 verses, and then we'll focus in on the two that deal with Advaita Acharya. Is that all right? All right, we have a microphone ready. All right. Dustin, you want to kick us off there with verse number 1?
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies in the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all.
What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him.
May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the Son of Sri Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love.
The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separated themselves. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself.
Desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appeared from the womb of Srimati Sachi Devi as the moon appeared from the ocean.
May Sri Nityananda Rama be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarsana, Shesha, Naga, and the Vishnus who lie on Karna ocean, Garbha ocean, and ocean of milk are his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions.
I surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram. The next one, right? Yeah. I surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, who is known as Shankarshan in the midst of the Chaturvyuha, consisting of Vasudev, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, and Anuruddha. He possesses full opulences, and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation.
I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose partial representation, called Karanadakshayi Vishnu, lying on the Karna ocean, is the original Purusha, the master of the illusory energy and the shelter of all the universes.
I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, a partial part of whom is Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. From the navel of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu sprouts the lotus that is the birthplace of Brahma, the engineer of the universe. The stem of that lotus is the resting place of the multitude of planets.
I offer my respectful obedience unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Rama, whose secondary part is the Vishnu lying in the ocean of milk, that
Shirodakshayi
Vishnu in the supersoul of all living entities and the maintainer of all the universe. Shesha Naga is his farthest subpart.
Okay, so a lot of verses about Lord Nityananda. Now there's two verses about Advaita Acharya.
Lord Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya.
Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita, and because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him.
I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnations, devotional manifestations, pure devotee, and devotional energy.
Okay, let's stop there. This is the section of Chaitanya Charitamrita in which we're introduced to the Panchatattva. And Advaita Acharya, whose appearance day is today, is at the center of it. The appearance of Advaita Acharya invokes this appreciation for the variety of ways in which Lord Chaitanya makes himself available as the devotee, the devotional incarnation, the devotional manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. So we read here about Advaita that he is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. And think for a moment what it's like when you see an ant on the sidewalk. Just consider the difference of perception, understanding of what's going on between us and an ant. This ant is running around. He's got his little domain. He's exploring. And if he finds a grain of sugar, the ants can actually move more than the weight of their body. So the ant will struggle and bring it back and take it to the nest. And then the queen will eat it and produce hundreds of more little ants that will replace that one when it dies. So we see all this, but the ant has no idea, just operating within this little jurisdiction. So similarly, we are operating within our little bubble, and Mahavishnu is unimaginably greater and more understanding and expansive than we could possibly imagine. Mahavishnu is from the cover of the Sri Ishupanishad, he is four-armed, he is the form of God in the material world, much more akin, if you will, to the Judeo-Christian idea of God than is Krishna with his flute. What? Mahavishnu is this powerful deity who is overseeing everything, who is the source of everything. So in the spiritual world, everybody is busy playing with Krishna and having a great time as Krishna's playing his flute and chanting everybody. Everyone is connected to Krishna, serving Krishna, focused on him, and there's great harmony and joy and endless happiness, so much so that nobody wants to sleep, nobody wants to stop, nobody wants to take a break for a minute. But nonetheless, sleep is part of the... Who are these boys that's creating all this disruption? All right. Ritadra Jamarash has a phrase, the sadhana terrorists. So Mahavishnu so nobody is sleeping, but yet sleep exists because it's everything that we see in our lives is also there in the spiritual world. So the sleep incarnation is over there in some distant corner of the spiritual world, some remote part, where Krishna expands himself as Mahavishnu to sleep. He lies down, he's sleeping away, and as he rests, every time he exhales, countless universes emanate from his body. And when he inhales, they all come back in. So the scale of time and energy is, to us ant-like creatures, is just unfathomable. We are all preoccupied with this one universe, and just so many are coming from him that it's like one mustard seed in a 100-pound bag of mustard seeds. That in this universe, which is so big to us, is just so inconsequential to him, and lasts but for the duration of a breath. This is Mahavishnu. So his foundational position is sleeping, and that is because there are living beings like us who, although entitled to endless happiness in the spiritual world, let it cross our mind at some point, wow, I wonder what it would be like to be Krishna. And it's really not this inimical, demoniac kind of thing that possesses us. It's more like a kind of a perverse curiosity. I wonder what it would be like to be Krishna. For that moment, we're not thinking about pleasing Krishna. We're just thinking, wow, what would it be like? And not even in an envious way necessarily. But just that's enough to invoke Krishna, who's fulfilling our desires, to say, oh, you want to find out what it's like? Then here, go to Dallas. Go to the material world, and you can experience, as long as you like, what it's like to be the center of everything. So, of course, that isn't our position, and as a result, we just suffer constantly, trying to be something that we're really not, trying to cram a round peg into a square hole, something that just really doesn't belong. So this Mahavishnu is Krishna's merciful incarnation, allowing the conditioned souls who want to be Krishna to experience that, to give them the facility, the chaitra, the place, the body, the whole matrix of illusion associated with the material world. So in this incarnation, Mahavishnu, he is the predominant deity of this massive creation. As these universes is made of matter emanate from him, he glances at them, and by that glance impregnates them with all the living entities who are going to fill up that particular universe. So Srila Prabhupada talks about the Big Bang theory. He says that science has concluded that everything comes from a chunk. Now this is not just a random idea. It's something that was based on research that came to light when the Hubble telescope was launched into orbit. For being able to see far beyond what we could see from Earth through the atmospheric covering. The Hubble revealed that everything in the universe is expanding. So working backwards, science concluded, okay, it all came from one point, and it's just expanding in every direction. So there must have been some point when it was all together. It was all together, and then it just went on expanding. And they could further deduce that at some point it will stop expanding, and it will then come back in. So this is accepted scientific theory today. It is just gospel, and it's called the Big Bang. The Big Bang, when everything exploded. Now, calculating the amount of matter in the universe and how that matter is composed of atoms, and how atoms have little tiny particles separated by great spaces relative to their size, and yet they appear solid. So the mathematicians concluded that if all the space between these little pieces of atoms were eliminated, the universe, all the matter in the universe would be about the size of a grapefruit. Maybe one of those big grapefruits from Macallan. That's the total sum of matter. And then it expands to create all the galaxies and stars and planets, because there's so much space in between the little pieces of the atoms. So if we look at this description of Mahavishnu, we see they've got a lot of it right. The universes are emanating from his body. And then they contract and come back in. So what they don't know is where the chunk came from. That is Prabhupada's challenge. Where did the chunk come from? Well, they say that's the domain of philosophy. All we know is it existed. That's all that matters. So in this way, we understand the position of Mahavishnu, this vast, unimaginable position of Mahavishnu. So Advaita Acharya is this same Mahavishnu coming to take part in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. In the course of all these universes and all the time that they're manifested, Krishna comes periodically, and he comes in his various incarnations also. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for this current age of Kali is this very special incarnation who embodies the love of Radha and Krishna, which is the central point of the spiritual world. So a very, very special avatar. Now Mahavishnu is seen, he's the deity of the universe, of the material universe. He's the origin, he's the big shot, he's the big man in the material universe, and yet Krishna is his boss. So they have this rather complex relationship, right? And Krishna is his source, and yet Vishnu is seen by everybody as supreme. So they have these very interesting interactions in various ways. For example, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Arjuna was in Dwarka visiting Krishna when this Brahmin came to the stairs of the palace of Ugrasen complaining, "My son died and you're the king and you're responsible. Anything that happens in the kingdom, you're responsible. And my son, for no reason, just disappeared, my infant son. And you haven't done anything about it." So Arjuna, hearing this, said, well, if the king can't protect you, I'll protect you. I promise to protect you. Actually, it happened several times, and the Brahmin was just exasperated and blaming Ugrasen. So Arjuna couldn't tolerate hearing this. He said, I will protect you. If somehow Ugrasen can't protect you, I'll protect you. So the Brahmin was pacified and, okay, I'll put my faith in you. And so then, after some time, his wife again became pregnant. Again, she delivered a baby boy. And Arjuna, by his incredible archery skills, created a dome of arrows over the house of the Brahmin, so nothing could penetrate. And yet, immediately after birth, that baby disappeared, just like the other, was it 8 or 9 before him. So the Brahmin cursed Arjuna. God damn you, Arjuna. Why did I ever trust a eunuch like you? And so Arjuna had taken a vow that if he did not protect that baby, that he would enter fire. So he was prepared to commit suicide. And Krishna, seeing this, said, Arjuna, what are you doing? And he told him the story. He said, hey, don't worry. We'll get to the bottom of this. So then Arjuna got aboard Krishna's chariot, which began flying through space. They went to all of the various places throughout the planets and the universe where the babies could have been, and then they went through the layers of material energy to the abode of Mahavishnu. And there, Arjuna was just seeing all this incredible display, all the various layers of material energy, all the opulences. And then he saw the Lord himself, Mahavishnu, lying on this ocean of milk. And Krishna rode right up to him. And then they got off the chariot and paid obeisances. And Krishna paid obeisances and Arjuna paid obeisances. Because Arjuna was, whoa, this is the big man. And then Mahavishnu smiled at them and said, yes, I have these Brahmins' babies and I will return them to you. I just wanted to see both of you. So here they are. But then they went back and gave the babies to the Brahmin, and he was very pleased. But then Arjuna was wondering, now, why would Mahavishnu go through all this complicated procedure to see us? And of course he couldn't understand that this was all so Krishna could remain in his life as a friend, and that Arjuna would not think of him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they went to the big Mahavishnu. See? So they have these various complicated exchanges. Like the gopis were chasing after Krishna one time, and so Krishna was running, and then he said, what am I going to do? So he transformed into Mahavishnu, into his four-armed form. And the gopis came running by, and they were just about to run past him. They stopped, paid obeisances, said, excuse us, have you seen Krishna? So Mahavishnu is a subordinate to Krishna, and yet he appears to be his superior. So in the same way, Advaita Acharya is the subordinate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and yet he appears to be his superior. He is about 50 years older than Lord Chaitanya. He was an elder, respected Brahmin. He had 2 houses in Shantipur and Navadvip. Shantipur is not too far away, but he had these 2 houses. He had 2 wives. He had 6 sons. He was a respected leader in the Brahmin community. So he could see how degraded Kali Yuga was becoming. Even though Navadvip was a center of learning, and even though the Brahminical culture was intact, still he could see the influence of Kali. So he read that Krishna could be worshipped by simple offerings of Ganga water and Tulsi. So he began offering prayers and invoking Krishna. Please come, only you can save this horrible situation in Kali Yuga. Only you personally can save it. And so by his loud cries and his sincere prayers and petitions, Lord Krishna took birth as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he was born, Advaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur were dancing because they knew Krishna had come. No one could understand why they were so ecstatic. So Advaita Acharya was well aware of the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And yet he was this elder in the community. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always was very respectful to him. Later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from Ishwara Puri. So Ishwara Puri was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. Advaitacharya was also a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So Advaitacharya, in addition to being elder and being the Brahmin, he was also the godbrother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru. So Lord Chaitanya was always treating him with great respect, touching his feet, paying obeisances, which made Advaita Acharya very unhappy. He knew the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and yet here was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offering obeisances. So he decided, he hatched a plot. He said, I'm going to make him mad at me. So he began, he said, I'm going to collect hundreds of disciples and teach them Mayavadi philosophy. So he began in his house teaching impersonalism. Brahman is supreme. You don't need Krishna. You don't need bhakti. All you need is Brahman. Krishna is dependent upon Brahman. And so the students were coming to him. They were imbibing. They were taking notes. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to visit, he saw all this going on. Wait, what are you doing? Which is superior, bhakti or gyan? Oh, gyan. You must have gyan in order to get bhakti. So, you rascal. And he dragged Advaitacharya by his hair. He dragged him out of the house, and he began kicking him and beating him. And Advaitacharya's wife, Sita Thakurani, came and said, he's an old Brahmin, he's an old man, you're going to kill him. And Lord Chaitanya kept beating him. And Haridas Thakur was saying, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. But Lord Nityananda was smiling. He knew what was going on. So when he finished beating him, when he finished getting beaten, Advaitacharya stood up and started dancing. This was what he wanted. He just wanted Lord Chaitanya to stop treating him so respectfully. Because he's Mahavishnu, but Krishna is the source of Mahavishnu. So they have this complex relationship. And this is described in the 12th verse. It's the incarnation of Mahavishnu. His main function to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. This Mayavadi philosophy means Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This is what Advaita was teaching, that that Brahman is reality and this material world is false. So in defeating that philosophy, Srila Prabhupada gives this interesting analogy that if the cotton is real, the thread is also real. Thread comes from cotton. So if the cotton is real, then the thread must also be real. So if Brahman is real, if Brahman is the source of everything, then the world we see must also be real. So this philosophy that Advaitacharya was teaching was so bogus. and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very happily defeated him. So this is verse number 12. Any discussion about this verse before we go on to the next, the 13? Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. So this question was asked by Parth to me actually day before yesterday. He was asking, Papa, what if we are in a dream? So I was thinking, it is quite possible, but there are past times where you have spent 100 years of your life just in a dream, or your own dream. So I could not really give a very satisfactory answer. So you want to comment about it?
Your what is it, 8-year-old son?
He's 10. He's turning 11 in August. Yeah.
He's 10. So he said, Papa, what if life is just a dream? That's the old song, right? Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Yeah, a very deep question. And it invokes the question, what is reality? And so this is, again, Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, that the impersonal idea would be that maybe what if everything we're seeing is false? So the answer is no, it's real, but the way we're perceiving it may be a dream. If we're thinking, for example, it is ours, That's a dream. That's an illusion. Prabhupada talked about having night dreams, and then you wake up and you enter your daydream. The daydream that I am this body, the daydream that I am the proprietor. It's my car and I'm driving on our county roads, but Krishna owns the car and Krishna owns the roads, but we're thinking it's ours. So that's the dream. And getting out of the dream is possible simply by chanting Hare Krishna and remembering our real position. Our real position is what? Tivera Swarupoi Nitya Krishna Das. I'm Krishna's servant. That takes us out of the dream. Okay, when we see, I'm in this illusory world, I've been trying to enjoy it for a long time. Now I see it belongs to Krishna. Prakatiya Buddha, Hari Sambandhi Vashtuna. It all can be used in relation to Krishna. Okay? Okay. Anything else on this? Prabhupada, Priya? Oh, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, please.
So the verse is Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. So which Maya is this talking about?
Right, it's the illusory energy, Bhumirapo Nalo Vayu, the lifeless material energy that has no independent existence. It is just a separated energy of Krishna. It has no existence independent of Krishna. This is where the scientists go wrong. That somehow this is just there. But through the actions of Maya, all these material elements are manifested, including false ego, the most subtle. And then Mahavishnu impregnates them with the aparayam tastvamniyam prakritim vidimeparam, the superior energy of the living force. So only Krishna can give that living force, and it cannot be created through combinations of Maya, of the material energy. That's my understanding. Is that square? All right, Prabhupada Priya? Okay. And you had a comment, Prabhu?
I just thought it was interesting because yesterday some of us were having a discussion about how, hierarchy of authority is not always so straightforward. And it seems that this issue, this complexity has very ancient origins. Krishna, Mahavishnu, Advaita Acharya,
Someone
Lord
can
Chaitanya.
be in a superior position and yet inferior position at the same time. All right. Yes, please. And then Nandini.
I was just, reflecting what you were talking about, how the scientists say, oh, it all comes from this chunk, and then when they're asked, where does the chunk come from? Oh, that's philosophy. That's not our realm. I was thinking how ludicrous it is that they're willing to go so far to put a telescope in outer space, and you just so much research, and then you just stop at that point, and you don't think, what's the origin of this thing that everything we say comes from? It doesn't make sense. They spend countless hours and years and lifetimes researching and studying, but then you stop there.
The simple reason that happens is because of the Aristotelian idea that reality is measured by our sense perception. And if we cannot perceive it, it doesn't exist, or we don't need to worry about it. So we can't perceive the spirit soul, and therefore we don't worry about it. We can't perceive God, therefore, if God ever wants us to believe in Him, He'll make Himself detectable by our scientific instruments. They don't think, what is my attitude in approaching Him, in approaching God, What an arrogant attitude. Hey, could we go to the mayor of Dallas and say, all right, Mayor, come out right now and I'll think about voting for you. So proud.
Hare Krishna. So, you mentioned about the Christians, and I wondered what, when Lord Jesus Christ said, I sit at the right hand of my Father. So you're saying the Father is Mahavishnu? Is that your understanding?
We have to ask Jesus that question.
Yeah. And also, also, a lot of the Christians say that Jesus is God, certain God. And in our tradition, the spiritual master is seen as good as God. So it's kind of a little bit.
Right, it's close, as they say, close but no cigar.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah, the idea of God is ambiguous in that particular philosophy because it was actually created long after Jesus' death. Jesus himself was speaking pretty simply that I sit at the right hand of the Father, and throughout his ministry he talked about the Father, not himself. But after his death, after his crucifixion, then subsequently, well, what they were trying to figure out about 300 years later, what is God exactly? Okay, so it's three. It's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, all as one. Right. So
no distinction.
Yeah, and there is a oneness. It's unless you understand Achintya Beta Beta Tattva, these things are inconceivable. How God could be simultaneously one with his Son and yet different. And the Son never says, I am the Father. The existence of the Son implies the existence of the Father. So.
One other comment. I just wondered if you remembered many, many years ago I had the cassette tape. It was called Radio Ram. And one of the, yes, and one of the little stories about that was the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
And how you have, all the ingredients for an apartment building, and you just take the TNT and you just blow it into existence. So.
Yeah, it was the Big Bang Construction Company.
Yes, it was.
You pile them all the ingredients right there, and we'll blow it up. And if it doesn't come out right, we'll blow it up again. All right, let's go on to. Go ahead.
No, I was going to make the same point that I was thinking about. How would it be possible when we all know that when you blow something up, it destroys? And then how could a big bang actually create anything, besides destruction? So
right, all the planets.
It just shows the Maya Prityagyana, their knowledge is stolen by illusion. They're thinking this is some kind of form of logic, but it's actually a total everything.
It's a good example of the ant in Mahavishnu, right? Mahavishnu sees what's going on. The ant has no idea. We see the whole context. He sees just a little narrow piece of it. Okay, great. Let's go on to this last verse about Advaitacharya. So because he is non-different. I think I'd like to do the Bengali, but time is short. Because he's non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. So, non-different, Advaita, and then Acharya means the teacher. Advaita Acharya. The non-dual, non-different aspect that we've been discussing. He is Mahavishnu, who is created by Krishna. So they are one, and yet there is a difference between them. Therefore, he's called the incarnation of the Lord's devotee, because Advaita wants to be in this position of subordination to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who by all social means would be his inferior. Then, because he propagates the cult of devotion, he's called Acharya. So that's a very loaded word that Prabhupada used freely, cult. Cult is a sociological term, which simply means a group of people centered around a particular person or idea. And it's become very pejorative, very demeaning in the recent decades. So much so in the University of Florida a few years back, there's a group of religious leaders that would meet informally called the Campus Ministry Cooperative. And it was mostly Christian. There was a Jewish center, there was a Mormon center, but it's the Episcopalians and the Methodists and so forth. But it was a very nice collegial group. We'd meet once a month, and they were very respectful for the devotees. And so one of the members brought into one of the meetings one time, there is a cult coming to campus. It's some kind of very far extreme evangelical Christian denomination or group that preys on college students. And it had been in the university before, and now they had announced they're going to come back. And it was a very, very big concern. They had members, former members who had been students, come in and talk to us about their experiences, how they had been so pressured and so manipulated, and how it had disrupted their studies so much. So the members were discussing, you know, what are we going to do about this cult? So I raised my hand and said, maybe I could help. I have 35 years experience as a cult leader. So we drilled down a little bit and found out that, you know, there is a distinction between a destructive cult and a cult per se, which is a neutral term. And they acknowledge Christianity started as a cult, the cult of Jesus. So then what makes a destructive cult? And we actually did a symposium on it and invited students. So some of the characteristics are, first of all, excessive financial demands. I got to know one of the former members of this group, and he said that, okay, let me step back. Deceptive recruiting practices. Deceptive recruiting practices, one of the qualities. So they would go on campus and look for freshmen. And freshmen are generally just, you know, young, they're impressionable, they're in a brand new environment, they're away from mom for the first time in their lives. And so these cult members would go and say, hi, how you doing? Welcome to campus. Hey, we have a study group. Would you like to join our study group? Maybe they look for them after a particular class, right? And so the freshman would think, oh, great, yeah, I can have somebody to help me with this class. But when they go to the study group, it would be 3 of the cult members, and they say, okay, we're going to study the Bible first. And so all of a sudden, okay, well, before I get to my homework, I have to study the Bible. So then they give them a very hard sell on biblical philosophy, and that was the way they'd be introduced. And then if they got interested and they got involved, then the cult leader would say, okay, very good. If you want salvation, you have to do 2 things. First of all, you have to give us $1,000 a year. Now, for a college student, at least at that time, that was a lot of money and a difficult thing to do. But if you want to be part of this group, you have to give us $1,000. And then you have to bring in 1 member. Otherwise, you cannot achieve salvation unless you bring in 1 member. So this was so much pressure that this poor kid that I was getting to know, he got mentally disturbed and had to have mental health therapy. And I met his mom, and she was so glad he was hanging out with devotees who didn't put these kind of pressures on him. You know, like we don't have to threaten people going to hell. We say, hey, you're in hell already, no problem. You know? So when we read this word, the cult of devotion, we need to understand it in its non-pejorative sense. The cult of devotion centers around devotion to Krishna. So when he was speaking on this verse, this was a day I'll never forget. It was April 6, 1975. And Srila Prabhupada was just explaining the meaning of Advaita Acharya. Advaita, non-dual, like we discussed with Mahavishnu, and then Acharya. So he said, what is an Acharya? Acharya is one who knows the philosophy of bhakti, who practices the philosophy, and teaches the philosophy. So these 3 things make one an Acharya. And then he looked out at us. There were about 150 or 200 of us in the little temple room in Mayapur at that time. And he said, and most of us were there for the first time. We had dysentery and our socks did not match. But he said, so we have how many Acharyas? 10,000? Prabhupada used to use that figure. We'd have 10,000 followers around. He, in fact, initiated about 4,000 or 5,000 disciples, but he was very, very broad in his vision. So we have 10,000 acharyas in our movement. 10,000 acharyas will become 100,000, and 100,000 will become 1,000,000, and 1,000,000 will become 10 million, and there will be no scarcity of acharyas. He described it. What is it? It is very easy. You simply have to repeat what you heard, not like a parrot, he said. You have to assimilate and in your own words present, and then you are acharya. So that was his definition and his vision. And he was admonishing the devotees there, as all the GBC members were there, and he was saying, you are young, you can do this, you figure out how to do it. I'm an old man, I have no opportunity. And those words, he went into an ecstatic trance. And we didn't know what to do. He just, sometimes people nod off during Bhagavatam class. It wasn't quite like that. You could see, you could feel he was in another dimension, just kind of vibrating ecstatically. And although his eyes were closed, this vision put him in ecstasy. This only happened a very few times in his life. But that was one of those rare occasions. That vision of 10 million acharyas all over the world teaching Krishna consciousness put him in ecstasy. And how it was so manageable. Each one just teaches 10. Everyone could teach 10, and then we'd have 10 million, and the whole world would be transformed. So he was there, and we were all just breathless, just watching, because you could feel it. You could feel it, the ecstatic power of this moment. Finally, Hansaduta, one of his older disciples, picked up a mridanga and started a kirtan, which kind of upset some people. The rest of us were kind of like, we'll stay here forever. But somehow he thought that was the right thing to do, and then Prabhupada began participating in the kirtan, and class was over. You can actually hear this tape. So in those instructions, especially in my later years, I've come to realize Prabhupada was sharing so much with us. First of all, that it's very easy to be an acharya. He did not see it as something very exalted. It is exalted, and yet it's not exalted. It's exalted especially for the follower, for the disciple, but it's not like this now person has to be God. This person may be seen as God, just like if you were in the water after the Titanic sank and a lifeboat came along. Well, whoever it is who's reaching their hand out of that lifeboat is the most important person in the world to you at that moment. Right? So you don't know if it's a captain or an ensign or just a passenger or whomever it is. That doesn't really matter. That person is there and willing to help you. So Prabhupada admonished us, it's very easy. What is the difficulty? Everyone should do it. And yet we due to a variety of factors I won't go into, my generation screwed it up. And we came out with this idea that, well, we got to replace Prabhupada. This is what we had seen in a guru, and so we thought to be a guru, this is what it means, But actually, that was a big mistake. Because it's meant to be for everybody. That was his vision when he was speaking on this very verse. So what does that mean? It means that just what he says in the verse, that he was teaching Krishna consciousness. That's the third qualification. Everyone can practice it. Everyone can learn it. Everyone can practice it. And then teaching it is the third and final step. It's not unnatural or coerced like my friends in the Christian cult. You see, it's not like if you have to do this or you can't be Krishna conscious. It's not like that at all. It is rather out of one's spontaneous appreciation for the transformative effect of bhakti. One naturally feels compassion and tries to help others. That teaching is born not out of coercion, but out of compassion. Not out of ambition, not to be a big shot, but just because you have something that can help other people. And you see they need it, and you offer it. Most people will say no, but some will say yes, and some will really appreciate. Thank you for reaching your hand out, Just like Prabhupada's hand reached all the way across the ocean for all of us. Where would we be, had he not taken that upon himself? But he was saying to us, essentially, what I did was really difficult, but you don't have to do that. I'm making it easy for you. All you have to do is what you're doing now. Learn it, practice it, and then teach it. And you only have to teach 10 people. So this is, again, we're getting on the dichotomy, how much respect do we give? Nobody really wants to be in a position where they're so highly respected, right? Just like Advaita Acharya did not want to be in that position. If I can be very candid with you, when I see my picture on that screen, I almost want to vomit. I don't know who put it there, but it doesn't make me happy. How would you feel if you came in to see Radha Kalachandra and then you saw your holy face on that? Now tell me honestly, how would you feel? Would anyone like to do that? Is anyone waiting for that day? This is a symptom of the mistake that my generation has made, that we think that we have to be in such an elevated position when in fact it's meant to be just as common as Siksha. When you're giving instruction, everyone will give instruction. We all teach to that extent, practically, right? In New Vrindavan, last year I had the opportunity to give a class, and I spoke on the verse, Gurur nasasyat swajano nasasyat, which means that you shouldn't be a teacher, a guru, or a parent if you can't deliver your dependence. So I asked the devotees there, so how many of you are parents or would be willing to be parents? And everybody raised their hand. I said, how many of you, almost everybody, how many of you would like to teach Krishna consciousness? Everybody raised their hand. How many of you are willing to take disciples? So this is a problem. We have a little discrepancy in this regard. So today I just wanted to share this vision of Srila Prabhupada with you and emphasize that it's only a matter of our willingness to do it that counts. Whether Krishna sends people for us to initiate is up to him. But are we willing to do it? It's said that the guru appears when the disciple is ready. And also, the disciple appears when the guru is ready. So as we're growing in our Krishna consciousness, two things. First of all, let's tone it down. We don't have to put the guru in such an exalted position. Exalted for the disciple, certainly, but for the public, no. Right? It just creates dichotomies. Some people like you, some people don't. Forgive me if I'm going over here, but I'm on a roll. Can I continue? Okay, fasting. So let me give you this for breakfast. How many here have taken the ISKCON Disciples course? Okay. So what is one of the very first lessons you learn in that course from Rupa Goswami? 3 things you should never divulge. You should never divulge your worshipable deity, your vows, or your guru. Why is that? Okay. Worshipable deity, simply because that's a private affair. And my worshipable deity may be different than yours. So I'll worship him privately, you worship yours privately, and then we'll get along very nicely. You see? Not that my God can beat up your God. My deity is more beautiful than yours. You see? It's a private affair. Vows, similarly, private affair. Oh, it's Ekadasi, I'm chanting 25 rounds. How about you? I'm fasting till midnight. How long are you fasting? It's like the Bible enjoins. You should pray in private. You take your vows in private. That is not to be worn on your sleeve. But then the Guru's name, that's, again, showing the degree of this disease in our society. What is the first question you ask when you meet another devotee? Who's your spiritual master? Right, and again, why is it supposed to be private? Because it's just going to create dichotomy. It's going to create dissension. Again, my guru is better than your guru. I don't particularly like your guru. Immediately there's all this unnecessary stuff. So it's just a private matter. It's a small thing. Having a guru, that's a big thing. But who that guru is, that's a small thing. That's a private matter, you see. So we're very conditioned by these kind of misunderstandings. I encourage my disciples, when they're asked that question, I said, have some fun. They've come up with a variety of fun answers. One is like, oh, my guru told me not to say his name. Actually, another reason why you're not supposed to say the name is because the disciple is supposed to think, I don't want people to know that my guru initiated somebody as fallen as I am. I would be a shame to my guru's name, therefore I don't want anyone to know. That's the guru. That's supposed to be the disciple's point of view. So then another devotee came up with an answer. Said, if I tell you, will it affect our relationship? Great answer. So these are the things that I hope our generation can get right before we're all in samadhi. And I hope the succeeding generations will not repeat our mistakes. You know, Siksha and Diksha are at the same level. It's right in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In fact, Prabhupada writes, if we make a distinction between the Siksha and Diksha Guru, we cannot spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. It's in that verse, Yarada Tarika Krishna Upadesh. So, yeah, and you're just, please, as you're chanting and meditating and learning and practicing Krishna consciousness, just say, I'm open to the idea. If Krishna sends people, first of all, I want to share, and if in the course of my sharing people get inspired, I'm ready to take responsibility for them. That's all. You just have to have that willingness, and then the rest is up to Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Advaitacharya ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We have a few more minutes if there's any. Let's see. Okay. Any comments or questions before we wrap up? Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I was just thinking, of course, here, Advaitacharya is the spiritual master, so we see that Krishna is the actual guru. He's the one giving the instructions that Prabhupada wanted us to repeat. So the different incarnations of the Lord are actually the guru, and Prabhupada said the guru is one because it's the principle of representing Krishna. The Brahmins are the mouthpiece of the Lord. They're the ones repeating the instructions and the pastimes and the culture of devotion. So the Lord is the real guru. He's the Adi Guru. Lord Nityananda is the Adi Guru, and we're just the servants of the Adi Guru. We're the servants of Srila Prabhupada. So we can say, yes, Srila Prabhupada's our guru, our acharya, you know?
Yes, and we're
the servants, right?
Yes. And the more that Prabhupada is in the center, the more everybody gets along. The more everyone agrees, because everyone can get excited about Prabhupada. So, big Prabhupada, and lots of little servants of Prabhupada. Other comments? Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Like you were saying, the term Acharya sometimes gets confused with the Sampradaya Acharya, which is Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
And then there can be other Acharyas, like after Narottam Das Thakur and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Between them, I think it's a gap of 200 years or something like that. There must have been lots of Acharyas who have continued the disciplic succession. It's just that they were not Sampradaya Acharyas in terms of how Srila Prabhupada was. So
that's right. And we don't have to be Sampradaya Acharyas to be little twigs on the Prabhupada branch. Right?
Yes, yes. My question is, although Siksha and Diksha are the same, Chaitanya Charitamrita says you should not differentiate. When somebody gives Diksha, it is also said that at that point they're also taking the karma of the disciple. And if the Diksha Guru who is doing that is not strong enough, how would that, it really doesn't work out in that sense, isn't it?
Right. So we have to understand that just as, first of all, if we're giving instructions, are we not taking some responsibility for this person's life? Well, it's true, we don't formally have to, but if there's somebody we're helping and then they have a problem, we're just going to ignore them? oh, I'm not responsible for your karma. You see? It's just a matter of human decency. We try to help people. But beyond that, the idea of taking responsibility for someone, their karma, is that, okay, the disciple gives money, right? And the faithful guru passes it up the sampradaya, or prays, let's say praise, right? The disciple praises the guru takes that praise and just passes it on. Postal peon, right? Knowledge comes from Krishna, guru delivers it like a postal peon. The disciple praises the guru, offers it up. Just look at Srila Prabhupada's continual praise of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And when he said it, it wasn't just some platitude. He was saying, no, it's all the credit of my Guru Maharaj. Totally from the heart, 100% sincere, not the least bit disingenuous. So that's the position of the Guru. You can take the praise because you can pass it on. You know that you're nothing. You're just being a little instrument and Krishna's kindly using you, right? So in the same way, that karma, the sinful reactions of the disciple, you also pass it on. I can't absolve your karma, but my Guru can, and his Guru, and the Parampara, and Lord Krishna. Sarvadharmam parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo. Krishna takes that karma. The Guru is just a vessel. Okay? Mm-hmm.
So in I think it's the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where a disciple approaches a really old spiritual master, and I think he says, I'm old enough now, I cannot handle this, but you take Diksha from him, I can give you instructions because the other person is a little younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So in this sense, there is still something, that it's not that you can completely pass it on?
No, it's not. That is a misunderstanding. It's not the karma. We already discussed, the karma goes through the disciplic succession. In that case, the Guru may be very realistic and say, I cannot really give you attention, but this person can. This person can do for you whatever I can do for you, and they're younger, they're stronger, they can give you more attention. And again, another symptom of our disease, that we think, okay, there's a couple of statements where you're not supposed to initiate in the presence of your Guru, right? And so many qualified devotees in our Sangha who could be giving initiations can't do it because their Guru is still on the planet. So two things are wrong with that. First of all, they're not prepared when their Guru does leave to take that responsibility. They're not trained. They don't have experience. How much better is it if the elder Guru can train the younger Guru? See, we have this idea that a Guru is like evaluated by how many disciples they make. But Bhaktisiddhanta said, no, a Guru is evaluated by how many Gurus they make. So because of this, again, this idea that every Guru has to be like a Sampradaya Acharya and have their picture up in the temple room. This misunderstanding. We're missing a whole generation of people who could be giving an initiation now and preparing their disciples for the same thing in the future. Okay, so please, you guys fix it. I'm going to do my best. But at least please understand how this is messing us up.
Thank you, bro.
Okay.
We have one more question here at the back, and then I want to see if any of our young audience members from the Gurukul would like to ask any questions or comments.
Thank you. My question was to your last section where someone had a 10-year-old and they had a dream. So I think we are the same age, 10. So I think what you said was right, like where we come to a realization that the world belongs to Krishna, the place we live in, the house we live in, the car we drive, even our kids, in a way.
Even our own body.
Yeah. So in my beginner's mind, how can you take that example forward into a day-to-day example, like working or doing your duties or something? Thank you.
I'm working for Krishna. My family is Krishna's. My duty to Krishna is to maintain the family and the home. Therefore, I go to work. I'm going to work for Krishna. I bring money. I'm giving it to my wife for Krishna. She's spending it for Krishna. Yeah, everything is done for Krishna. Manasa Deha Geho Yokichumor. If you read Bhaktivinoda Thakur's beautiful bhajan, Manasa Deha Geha, he describes this. He was a householder with 13 children. And he describes how to make everything for Krishna. Okay. Prabhupada Priya or Daniel? Oh, go ahead, Nadia.
I just remember someone asked in class, I was listening to at home, about trying to, maybe it was in the workplace or with students, or I can't remember, trying, and you were talking about being patient, that it takes time to reach out. It was the higher echelon of the universities, I believe it was, and I was thinking about Tamal Krishna Maharaj when he was in the academy, and even when he was in the university, he would distribute prasadam. He would ask them, what do you like? And at one point, someone said, well, I like chocolate brownies. And he came back into the community and told Bhakti Lata, you make brownies, I'm going to distribute them. We're going to offer them and distribute them. So that, when I was hearing that at home, I was thinking that was the missing link in a sense. Because prasadam has such a powerful effect on the heart. So anyway.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. And these last two questions, and we will. Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you for teaching. Okay, so I took some notes, and this is what I think that you're saying, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so that you took disciples to offer your service and care and guidance in Krishna consciousness, and you said that gurus should not be exalted for who they are in name or form, that acharyas simply become gurus when they become willing and qualified to take disciples, and Krishna sends them a disciple. Like sponsors are only sponsors in AA because the sponsee approached and asked them, and they were willing to pass on their knowledge and provide care. Question, you said gurus should be exalted by their disciples, but not the public. And so my question is, how should gurus be exalted by disciples, and why does everyone face forward on the ground when a guru walks into the room?
Okay. How does the disciple glorify the guru? Mostly it's by keeping the instruction of the spiritual master. Okay? The basic instruction is to chant 16 rounds and follow 4 regular principles. That's the connection. And once a year, on the occasion of the spiritual master's birthday, then the disciples can have fun and tell him what a great guy he is. One day a year. Rest of the time, it's just business. And sometimes disciples think, oh, if I promote my guru, then my guru will be pleased. And it's reminiscent of this story of the guru who asked for a glass of water, and the disciple comes back with a glass of milk. I asked for water. Yeah, but milk is so much better than water, Guru Dev. So what the guru actually wants is what the disciples should see. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, and then why does everyone bow down? Well, because you see, most of our gurus in ISKCON are sannyasis. Prabhupada wanted all of his disciples to be gurus. About 2% of his disciples are taking disciples. And most of them are sannyasis. So Lord Chaitanya instructed the Kurma Brahmins stay at home and preach. So Yarida Tarika Krishna Upadesh Amar Gyai Guru Hoy Tara Edesh. Become a guru in your own country. So that sannyasis being gurus is kind of our standard in ISKCON, but it's not the standard in our tradition. Where the gurus are more householders. And therefore, for sannyas, you're supposed to bow when they come in the room, at least once, first time you see them, because their position in the varnashram system is exalted. They've renounced. And so we're respecting the position, not necessarily the individual. So for gurus, offering obeisances to gurus, most gurus don't like that. And don't expect it, and would prefer they didn't. It's the same kind of thing, I'm offering milk when all you want is water. Just go on with your service, and then if you're serving nicely and you're humble and you're steady and you're chanting your rounds, then you're representing the guru very nicely. Last point, Prabhupada Priya.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. I was just reflecting on the pastime from Chaitanya Charitamrita that we were covering on Sunday about the Buddhists and Lord Chaitanya. And so it's explained there that Lord Chaitanya told them that if you chant Hare Krishna in your leader's ear, then he'll wake up, he'll come back to consciousness. So, and then, of course, Lord Chaitanya told them, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So then Prabhupada writes in the purport that Lord Chaitanya initiated them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they went to the Guru, who was lying there unconscious on the ground, and chanted the Maha Mantra in his ear, and he woke up, then Prabhupada said, and then the former disciples of the former Guru initiated him. So 2 things we can learn from that. One is that initiation is not such a big deal. 2, you can initiate in the presence of your Guru, because Lord Chaitanya was just standing there. He had just initiated them, and then they just initiated someone else in his presence. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Very instructive thing. And they hadn't even taken the ISKCON spiritual leadership course.
So I'm kind of wondering, I know there are devotees who are willing to be gurus, and yet, you said all we need to do is be willing. But there are devotees who are willing, and yet there are so many restrictions that are preventing them from being able to play that role. So, if this is the case, if this is what it's supposed to be, then why are our, erudite, surrendered souls who are leading the movement placing so many restrictions on the Diksha Guru process?
Well, that's a long topic, but just in short, it's because some initial misinformation was given to these very frightened and confused young men in 1977. They went to an elder Vaishnava, 78 I should say. They went to an elder Vaishnava who said, this is how you should do it, and that's what they did. It became the zonal acharyas, and then acharya was a big thing. It was like a big, very, very distinctive thing. Oh, who gets to initiate? And it's still lingering, even though the zonal acharyas were done away with. But the big exalted guru being an elite crowd, that's still lingering.
Is it like a fear that someone unqualified is going to become a guru and mislead like hundreds and thousands of people?
Yeah, and that has happened. And so there's a real paranoia. No, we want to be very careful about who gets this exalted position, as opposed to recognizing anyone who's preaching and who meets at least some minimum qualifications, inspires people, and they should be able to initiate them. No big deal. Prabhupada used the phrase regular gurus, so this was not what Prabhupada envisioned, what we've got right now. But making changes is tough. It's like making a left turn in the Titanic, It doesn't happen very fast. But if we all understand and we keep moving in that direction, maybe when all the old guys are out of the way, it'll be easier. But anyway.
Also this thing about not initiating in the presence of your guru, if that was the case, then there would always be a generation that would be missed, because it's longer than your journey to adulthood or maturity in Krishna consciousness. Like your guru's lifespan, typical human lifespan is longer than the time it takes for one to become mature in Krishna consciousness and, qualified to be a guru.
Yeah, just see how perverted it is. And then the disciples may want to initiate, but they're waiting, when is Gurudev going to, and the guru doesn't have the chance to teach the disciples how to be gurus. So instead the gurus initiate more and more and more, and then the gulf between the disciples and the guru gets bigger and bigger, and their ability to have personal interaction gets less and less. So this is why that story you told was nice. It stopped initiating. I'm old enough. You take initiation from this one. That's the natural way of things. It's a burden. It's a responsibility to take disciples, but not a huge one. It's not nearly as burdensome as having a kid. You don't have to change diapers. We're all willing to have kids, but having disciples. Okay, I just wanted...
Can we just check just to see? I just want to see, we haven't heard from any of our kids. I just want to see if any of them have a comment or a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah?
I really like the story that you said about the college people. It was very funny.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you. Okay, so just in this regard, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu has, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu has kindly agreed to start accepting disciples. And so the many years too. It would have been a nice many years earlier, but here it is. So. So everyone, please give their blessings as you're going through the procedures, the bureaucracy, Prabhupada Priya. But we'll plow through it. It's worth it to keep in the family. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki jai. Let's all give Kalakanta Prabhu one more last thank you and big Haribo. Thank you. Haribo. We'll take the picture off the TV. We want to wish you safe travels. They're headed to Austin along with Brihat Mridanga Prabhu and Steve. And Drishta is going for a week, so we wish them all a safe travels. And we pray you all come back again soon. Thank you so much for your association. Let's give them all a big Haribo. Haribo. And thank you to our TKG Academy students for coming and joining us this morning. Thank you so much. Haribo.